This game used to mean something. Dang it. And now I guess it does mean something. It's about how high of a draft pick these two teams are going to get. This one could obviously get very ugly. There's no Dak Prescott in this one for the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of looks like there's going to be no Tommy DeVito for the New York Giants. But even if that's the case, Drew Lock's probably better. So like maybe that's you're falling upwards with that being the case. But anyways, matchup that matters here in this one. These two teams obviously don't like each other. And let's be real. This might be a draft pick type of a major takeaway when it comes to these teams, but these two coaching staffs kind of coaching for their jobs. And so it's not like these guys are sitting back. They're comfortable just like being bad football teams or saying like, oh yeah, we're developing. Both these guys got to win this football game. And this one on Thanksgiving Day goes a long way into the vibes being correct in your direction. So matchup that matters here. What do you got?
I think it's the most fun one of what could be a really kind of dismal game, and that's Malik Neighbors against these Cowboys corners. They're the Cowboys secondary. Malik Neighbors is, again, just a bright spot for the New York Giants, and no matter who's playing quarterback, that has to be priority number one of getting the ball to Malik Neighbors, getting the ball to your playmaker, and I say playmaker singular because it pretty much is. 12 contested catches, tied for sixth in the league. And that's what I think what makes him so special. That's like the one thing you want to isolate about Malik Neighbors is the fact that you can kind of throw him these prayer balls and he's going to come down with them. It's 37 receiving yards gaining, or 37 receptions gaining a first down. That's tied for ninth in the league. 80.2 receiving grade, 79.4 overall grade, top 20, top 10 type of numbers for the rookie. Again, the bright spot on this New York Giants offense. And then what Cowboys corners, 59.4 coverage grade as a unit, which ranks 22nd in the league. So that could be a big area to exploit if you're the New York Giants.
I'm going with Micah Parsons as my sort of matchup that matters. And I could have gone, with him as a plus factor in this one because it's more about him as an individual than the Cowboys defensive line. But I really do feel like he could be a game wrecker in this one. Micah Parsons, 88.3 PFF grade so far this season, 90 PFF passing grade, which is third best in the NFL. And he's already got 36 pressures, which is tied for 24th despite missing time at the beginning of the season. Parsons has been great since he has been back out there and healthy, and I really think that this could be a takeover type of performance. The Cowboys are sort of down. Obviously, 2 weeks ago it was really bad. This past week, they get a win. But I think that Parsons is probably looking at this game saying, I got to take this over. Like, I have to take over this football game. Like, if we're going to win, it's probably going to be on the defensive side of things. Not that he doesn't trust the offense. I think he's a team guy. I think he believes in the guys around him. But I really do. I just feel as though Parsons is going to look in the mirror or, stare at his locker before the game and just be like, I got to take this over. Like, I have to be the top type of a player who can really be an X factor and take over these games like I know I'm capable of doing. And I think he's going to do it against the Giants, whose offensive line is not only struggling, but it's also, you're going up against a quarterback who, whether it was Tommy DeVito, who we know didn't handle pressure well, as we saw against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week, or it's Drew Lock, who has more years in the NFL, but he's sort of inexperienced because he's come cold off the bench if he's going to be the guy who's in there. So it's different when you say, all right, well, I can plan for pressure, and then there's different types of pressure, which Micah Parsons can bring. So to me, the matchup is simply how the New York Giants are going to plan for Micah Parsons, because I really do believe this is an X factor type of a takeover performance that we could be seeing here from Micah Parsons if the Giants can't block it up correctly. So I'm going to go with Micah as my matchup that matters versus the Giants offensive line. What about a plus factor for you?
Yeah, plus factor actually works directly off of that. It's complementary to it, and it is the Giants offensive line and how they fare against Micah Parsons. Although it's really given the fact that you need to give whoever's under center as much of a chance as possible. That's kind of what this reasoning is born out of. Although I guess if they play put on by Jeezy, Drew Lock should be fine. I don't know. We'll see.
That's probably the X factor. That's honestly probably the X factor.
That's probably the plus factor here. Is actually put on by Jeezy. If MetLife Stadium knows what's good for it, or is this in Dallas? I forget.
This one's in Dallas. It is
in Dallas. All right, so they're not going to be able to stay far away from that if you're game ops for the Dallas Cowboys. But and to expand upon the impact that Micah Parsons could have, there is a real threat to that, given the fact that the Giants' offensive line has just not been good this year. 65.5 PFF grade overall, that ranks 26th in the league. 58.4 PFF pass blocking grade, which is 27th. And that's where Micah can do the most damage. And that's what's going to really doom this offense, because it's going to render what I talked about in my matchup that matters, Malik Neighbors versus these Cowboys corners, completely moot, given the fact that if you get pressure on an inexperienced quarterback because this offensive line isn't giving you any time, you're never going to get the ball to Malik Neighbors. And I do think that that's kind of what is going to be the biggest kind of swing in this game, is how the Giants offensive line fares specifically against Micah Parsons. So it's kind of a match that matters. It's kind of a plus factor.
Right. I'm gonna stick with the defensive line for my plus factor in this one. Brian Burns, come on, man. Like, this is a game where you could really step up and play well against the Cowboys offensive tackles. 0 pressures last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was without Tristan Wirfs. And 0 pressures, a season low 6.7 pass rush win percentage. I mean, it was one of the lowest pass rushing grades that he had in the season, despite having the 4th most pass rushing snaps in a single game this season. I mean, it's just not been effective for Brian Burns, and he needs a big time bounce back game. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is really the only constant on that defensive line, and you draft Kayvon Thibodeau and you trade for Brian Burns, so you don't have to utter those words. You don't have to say, well, only got one guy went off for us today. Your idea is that at least 2 of these players are having fantastic games every single week. And Burns has had good games this season. I don't want to say he hasn't. 2 weeks ago, he had 8 pressures in a single game. But to be shut out the way that he was against the Buccaneers is disappointing for a player that you trade a lot for and that you're paying a lot of money for. And I understand it's a professional league. Those other guys on the other side of things get paid too. But Burns is too talented to have 0 pressures on 30 pass rush snaps in a single game. So Brian Burns needs to be the plus factor here, simply because if the Giants are going to stay close in this one, they got to get after Cooper Rush. They've got to force some turnovers from him. And I think Brian Burns is one of those guys that really has to step up in order to do so. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can come one today.